is going on, RotoGrinders? Dean here. It's Dean78904. If you want to get a little technical on me, it is 5:30 on the East Coast on the dot, 2:30 on the West Coast, 4:30 Tennessee time. Of course, it's time for the flagship show here at RotoGrinders. It's called Grinderslive. 7-game slate, 3-man booth. Why not? Rolling out the 3-man booth on a Monday. Hopefully, you guys don't have a case on the Mondays. Well, if you rostered Porzingis this weekend, you may have that too soon. Kirk Dees, what's going on, dude? How's life in your world?
Yeah, I had Porzingis. Appreciate that. Way to start off the show for me.
Do you still is the bidet still working in the house? Is it you still a functioning bidet?
So I needed the bidet yesterday.
Your lineups did something. Yeah.
Exactly. Clean everything up. Plus makes you feel nice. Clean. You can just sit on there for a little extra length of time. Yeah, it came in handy.
It's a good visual. Stevie, how about yourself? How was your weekend? How were the NASCAR streets? Things good for you? Things good for the subscribers?
Yeah, good weekend. Really good Friday and Saturday. Sunday, lost a little bit of money, but overall, when 3 of your guys wreck on lap 7 and you only lose a little bit of money, I think that's an okay day.
Oh, man. I'm assuming it's all the same crash, right? Trickle-down effect?
It was all the same crash, yeah. Joey Logano wrecked Ricky Stenhouse, and Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott kind of ran into each other, so it wasn't good.
Isn't Ricky this? I know a little bit about NASCAR, very little, but don't they call him Recky? Is that his nickname? Because
that is his nickname, yeah.
Did you know this going in when you were making lineups?
Yeah, you know the risk of playing him, but he had a fast car. They ran the same car Saturday that they ran on Sunday, so he had a really fast car Saturday. So you just needed him not to lose 5 positions. So it was a really good FanDuel play. So just didn't work out, but I'm excited, man. Daytona this weekend. We got some promotion stuff coming out on RotoGrinders. We're gonna give away some stuff later this week, so I'm definitely excited for Daytona this week.
Is it a pass possibly to get the package or what?
We're going to give out quite a few of them. So, pay attention to Friday, so yeah.
I'm excited because I'm going to be on the morning grind tomorrow. Of course,
you are.
Yeah, there you go. If you guys want, I don't have to host. I get to play the analysis position, analyst. I guess I couldn't think of that word for some reason. Maybe that's why I'm not that. But I'm looking forward to it. It's probably a big slate too, so it might be a long one. We'll see. We'll be recording that later on tonight. But Stevie, daily fantasy sports, we don't care about yesterday. We don't care about tomorrow. We care about tonight and tonight only. 7-game slates. The bats are not really all that interesting. From at least that's not my perspective. I kind of want to load up the best arms, just kind of figure the bats out, and hopefully I get there. Before we do that, actually, let's do our sharp side pick. Hopefully you guys sent in some picks to the sharp side app. Stevie, do you have a winner for the people?
Yeah, I feel like today when I opened it up and I looked at it this morning, it was the lock of the century. I don't know what the line is right now, but Cincinnati was minus 137, and I think you have to stay under minus 140 for a lock bet. But Trevor Bauer against the Brewers, Brett Anderson pitching for the Brewers, minus 137, it seemed like a lock to take Cincinnati at minus 137.
So it's funny because I was going to do the same thing and send it to the dev and he would show it up on the screen and everything, but I guess you must have got it earlier than me because I looked for it and it was minus 143. And, in order to fit on the parameters, you can't just pick the biggest favorites and start your streak because anybody can do that, right? So I didn't want to lock it in because that's not a lock pick. That wouldn't help to my streak. And I think my streak's only out 1 or something like that. That was the rail last week. So I don't have a winner. I just kind of stared at it. I will say I like Texas as a dog. I know their lineup is terrible, but I think Lance Lynn is pretty solid. I think worst case scenario, they should be straight up, kind of a coin toss here against Oakland. I know Lizardo is a pretty solid arm too, but that plus 128. Now that doesn't make sense to do on the sharp side thing. You're supposed to take advantage of, the parameters. You can get to minus 140. But so I said to nothing and I clicked on nothing because I don't know. But just if you're, if you have a guy, you know a guy, you're in the right state or something like that. I like Texas plus 128. Do you have anything for me, Kirk Dees, on the sharp side up?
I went a little off the board here. I went Alec Mills pitching tonight for the Cubs. I took his over in a K prop, which I don't think many people would do just by looking at his numbers and his pitch velocity and whatnot, because he's not a hard thrower. But this Detroit lineup just has so many Ks built in it, and he does come from some decent pedigree. It's really all about his when his changeup is working, and I'm expecting him to have a bounce back start tonight. And So I took the over on his K prop, which is 4.5.
4.5. I'm pulling up the Detroit lineup. Mills, 23.4% Ks, dating back to last year. And also, I think some of that work is out of the bullpen for what it's worth. You tend to get higher Ks out of the pen. But I think you're betting on Detroit striking out because you pull that lineup up and you pull up the plate IQ. Every single person in this lineup, with the exception of Miggy Cabrera, has some version of red or pink, which of course means they strike out a good bit. And collectively at 26.3%. So, yeah, I don't dislike that. I'm okay with that. My issue is how long is he going to go, and I don't know how legit his King numbers actually are because so it's skewed with bullpen numbers. But I think that's pretty solid. Stevie, you have a thought on that?
I like Mills a lot. Grant and I talked about him on the morning grind, and I like the over on that. Like, you look at 2020 numbers for Detroit, and they have a 30.4% K rate against right-handed pitching with this projected lineup. So I like it. I don't know if is the lineup out yet already?
Yeah,
be, right?
Yeah. I fired it up in the old plate IQ, and again, collectively 26.3%. Ray is leading off, then the mouthwash Scope, Cabrera, Candelario, Goodrum, Jones, Stewart, Romine, and Castro batting ninth.
But you're looking at like 2019 to 2020, right?
Sure.
Because like if you look at just 2020, everybody's over 20%, and it's 30.4%.
Yeah, I mean, as a general rule, I like to get the bigger sample over the smaller sample. But you're right. Like Goodrum in 74 plate appearances has struck out 43% of the time against right-handers, which is outrageous. Romine at 33%, like you said, 30.4%. That's a huge number. They're K-happy. We can just say that. Sure, why not? As far as this slate, big picture, Kirkies, what are we doing? Is it double barrel as far as pitchers?
Big picture, I'm going to just throw this out there and just come clean that I'm not a huge fan of the slate itself, but we got to work with what we have here. Obviously, the two pitchers that you want are Trevor Bauer and Lance Lynn at the high end, but you got to pay for them. We do have some value. We got Lizardo, who's probably going to be extremely popular, but these guys are all going to be really popular, right? And then it's just easy to build with the Arizona stack, which I'm sure everyone's going to like, picking on Castellani. Other from that, we got to figure out how to like win some GPPs, right? How do we go outside the box? But there's not a ton I like. There's like a bunch of decent pitchers on this slate. So I don't know, maybe I'll have a better feeling by the end of it.
Yeah, Stevie, like it is pretty, it depends on your shopping too, because Bauer is 12K on FanDuel, which you can make a lineup with Bauer, but you're not going to like it. It's a pretty big asking price, and the step downs are pretty solid as well too. Right now I prefer Lance Lynn over him. It's you're saying it's saving like 2.2K or something like that in your lineup, so it's looking much better. And Lynn, we'll talk about him soon enough. He's been excellent this year so far. Historically much more dominant against righties and lefties. Oakland can only get so left-handed. Their lefties aren't very good anyway, outside of Olsen, who's just like an all or nothing guy. Stevie, I dropped this one in the expert survey today. Lance Lynn has now gone 29 straight starts, 29, where he's thrown at least 100 baseballs. That's a lot.
That's what you're paying for when you play Lance Lynn. Like, you're paying for the floor of a guy going deeper in the game. Like, reason that we can't play like Jack Flaherty today is because we really don't know how deep he'll go, and like he's priced around Bauer and Lance Lynn and some of these other guys. So like Kenta Maeda went 100 and like something pitches because he had a no going, but like we're already seeing like the leash on, like, he doesn't go out for the 8th inning if he's on the Dodgers last year. Kenta Maeda, it doesn't matter if he had a no or not. So we're seeing a lot longer leash. So for me on this slate, I think you can definitely be different with some of these pitchers, especially on DraftKings. And like, if nobody's going to pay up for Bauer on FanDuel, like there's plenty of cheap bats to make it work.
Yeah, I'm going to for sure make one lineup with Bauer on FanDuel and just sort of pick the value plays, and hopefully you get a couple homers with, a 50 or 60 point score at Bauer, which we can definitely see. He's been nothing short of phenomenal this year. If you want to look at just this year, Stevie, the K rate is 43.6%, completely absurd. He's facing a Milwaukee team that's in the bottom 3 of basically any meaningful category. They strike out way too much. Their WOBA, their ISO, the WRC plus is like 70 or 68, which means you're 32% worse than the average team if it's 68. I don't remember the exact number, but more or less they're terrible. Long story short. So how much are you prioritizing Bauer? Because, he's just a phenomenal play. And I guess on the two pitcher sites as well too, especially on DK, where it just doesn't. He's too cheap. He's too cheap on DK. He might be a little bit too much on FanDuel. I don't know if there's a Goldilocks or something like that on Yahoo or something like that where he's just right. But I don't know how to get away from Bauer on DK. Can you, Stevie?
Like not in cash games. In tournaments, I think there's plenty of options to be different. Like I have Bauer at one of 3 teams right now because I do like Kenta Maeda, I do like Lance Lynn, I like Mills and Lizardo. So like I feel like I don't have to play Bauer today. I think he's the best pitcher on the slate, and it's not like particularly close. So like I feel like in tournaments, if everybody's playing Arizona and Bauer, which projected ownership is telling us that's a lot of the majority of what people are doing today, then like Kirk D said, like how am I winning a tournament with those guys? Like I'm probably not. Like there's a good chance that like Bauer Lizardo combo does really well today, but if there's a slight possibility that one of those guys gets in trouble, like Mills could win you a tournament, Kenta Maeda can win you a tournament. So I have a chalky build. Like I built an Arizona Bauer Lizardo team and I love it. So like it's not hard to do that. You got to find ways to be different. And like, Kirk D's already said it with his, K prop. Like look at Alec Mills here. Like this Detroit team is terrible. Jonathan Scope and Jacoby Jones are the only 2 guys that have shown any type of power in this lineup this season. So like why are we not looking at Mills when he has a projected ownership under 5%?
Kirkies, Mills?
Yeah, I'm on board. The reason why is because he doesn't really throw very hard. People think that he's due for a lot of regression. He certainly had a terrible start in his last one, but I have the alternate view. I'm on board with what Stevie said, and I think that this lineup is so terrible that he can absolutely mow some of these guys down. And like I said before, it's all about if his changeup is working. So if his changeup is on tonight, he should be able to breeze through a bunch of efficient innings, and the Detroit bats are just the Ks are gonna happen. It's just gonna happen with that lineup, and so I'm on board with that. But man, it's tough to like forego the upside of Bauer and Lynn, though.
Yeah, let's bring Lynn into the conversation now because he's been excellent this year. We know his dramatic splits, lefties versus righties. And let's see, do we have the Oakland lineup? I presume we do. No, we don't, unless I got to hit the refresh button. Do you guys have Oakland's lineup up in front of you by chance?
I don't think it's out yet.
I got it. It's Semien. It's Grossman's in there. Tony Kemp's down at the bottom with Sean Murphy.
Oh yeah, it's out. Sorry.
So 3 lefties, 2 of them, Grossman, Kemp, Olsen, he could strike out a good bit. Of course, he's got plenty of pop in that bat too. I think he's a really good leverage play, I would say, just because I don't know if people are going to play Olsen, especially if, Lynn's going to be popular with which I suspect will happen. But, collectively, we're looking at 6 righties this year or his last 2 seasons. He's got a 35% K rate against righties, 22% against lefties. That's not the worst. That's fine. It's about league average. Nice ballpark, right? That's what we've seen so far. I don't know if the roof is open. I presume it's closed today. If anybody could speak on that, that would be great.
It's closed.
Okay. So Lynn versus Bauer when you consider ownership. What's your thoughts there, Kirkies?
I mean, I want Bauer. I mean, this guy, it's the Brewers just K, right? We know that. They're third in K percentage against right-handed pitching. They're top 5 in K percentage on the season. He just mowed down 12 of them the last time he faced them just recently. And I just love his pitch count, although both of these guys go deep. I think Lynn is going to be more popular because of price on DK, but that makes me want to lean towards Bauer more because but I love them both. I can't lie. But for me, the priority is Bauer.
And you guys talked about Mills, and like one of the ways to get double barrel working is like a cheap Detroit stack. It's just a weird way the slate works. I don't necessarily love Detroit, but you got Victor Reyes at 2.8K leading off. You got Miggy Cabrera at 2.8 batting thirds as DK. Stewart's 2.3. You can get a really cheap Detroit stack and the 2 big studs, and then a couple other bats that are legitimate. And there's different ways to go. Obviously, it's only a 7-game slate, but plenty of routes to consider. Let's bring Lizardo into the conversation. The chat said the Texas lineup just came out.
It's so bad.
So they called up Leodia Tavares. Did he crack the lineup? He's one of their bigger prospects. I assume he did.
Yeah, leading off.
Okay, yeah.
He's batting leadoff.
He could be interesting. I just saw a note that he's one of their better prospects. I think the third in their system, but third in Texas system is not the same as third in San Diego system. It depends where they're coming from, right? Different guys and different systems are stronger than others. Basically, I'm curious what his game comp is like. But at 2.8K, it's an interesting salary saver potentially.
He's a lefty too.
He's switch hitter. I'm seeing. At least according to the RG page.
has him as a. I'm probably looking up the wrong guy then.
There might be another. Maybe you're looking at the Leotis Martin or something. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. There's another Tavares, I'm sure, lurking out there. So talk to me about Lizardo because he's pretty cheap on DK, 7.4K. He's the favorite. Vegas is not respecting Lance Lynn, and I think also part of that is the Texas lineup is terrible. It's just an awful, awful lineup. It's really bad. There's no who's not in there. The outfielder. The Shin-Soo Choo is not in the lineup. Okay, the lefty, I suppose that's one of the reasons why. All right, Kirk Dees, talk to me about this Texas lineup versus Luzardo.
Well, we like Luzardo. He's finally it's the pitch count was the concern as they were getting him going, but I think we're kind of through that. And so I think there's more upside to go even longer. And we know what the pedigree is. I mean, we just have to trust it. And this Texas lineup, like you said, like they're already mailing it in. They're already pulling in the prospects here. Tavares leading off. What do we expect in the first game? I don't know. But this lineup looks really friendly. I mean, they got Chirinos, I assume, DHing in this one. Trevino.
They're rolling out two catchers, I assume so.
Yeah. Two double catchers. So anytime the team's
Cotton.
rolling out, bold strategy, Cotton.
The Cubbies are doing it too, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I know they've been forced to do that quite frequently lately. I mean, Lizardo is really going to keep improving. Had a good start in his last one, correct? I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but
it was his best start he's had.
Yeah, the K stuff is there. He went, he 7 against Arizona, and that's great. But the K stuff is there, and it's only going to keep getting stronger and stronger as the season goes on, as he comes into his own. And this is a lineup that absolutely, especially with the roof closed, that we want to pick on. They strike out at such a high clip that, I mean, he's a great play. So he's like the number 3 tonight for sure.
Leody Tavares, quick peek at his Fangraphs page. 21 years old, bats both ways, throws righty. Looks like a speedster. I'm seeing in 2019 he had 31 stolen bases in A and AA collectively, just 5 homers. So it looks like a guy, if he gets on base, he's going to swipe a bag. In 2018, he had 19 stolen bases. 2017, 20 stolen bases. Never had more than 8 homers, it looks like, if I'm doing my math right. But there you go.
It says that he doesn't have a lot of game power. He's more of a speed a speed field guy.
Yeah, but okay.
He played AA. Like he's not seen a pitch above AA. Like this, I don't know.
Well, we've seen that with a lot of guys this year because there's no minor leagues. They just, they're playing their inter squad stuff or whatever they're doing at different locations. But it's going to be so weird to see what happens to the minor leaguers. Their development has been stunted, I'm sure, collectively with what's going on. But all right, I mean, if nothing else, he's a cheap outfielder leading off, and maybe gets on base and swipe a bag, put a ball in the hole, maybe get a triple or something like that. But yeah, Luzardo looks like a really, really interesting step down away from Bauer and Lynn. Stevie, is there anybody else that is he worth talking about? I'm looking at the chat here. What's up, chat? That's YouTube. Feel free to like and subscribe. We do appreciate that. We'll try our best to knock out your questions. I see one question in here, Stevie. And does Dean like Keller? No. I mean, I just don't see a ton of upside. He does a good job of not giving up homers. I'll give him that. I don't like rostering guys against him because he just subdues homers. But he's not somebody that I want to – I don't see a monster upside for him, especially in this slate where if I roster him, great, I get a couple extra bats that I don't really love. I just don't love the bats at all. And I might as well get the big arms that I like. And that's sort of that's my perspective as far as this slate. Does anybody have any interest in Keller?
On the expert survey today, I pointed out he has a 0 ERA with a 0 ISO allowed on the season, but he has a 4.8 Sierra and a 4.31 xFIP. So there's some massive regression. I have a couple Cardinal stacks out there on this slate, 3-man, and I think I have a 5-man too. So I think there's some massive regression coming with Keller. There's not a lot of offenses to target. He's certainly someone that I'm picking on this slate.
We mentioned Flaherty in passing. His first game back, the Cardinals, of course, were knocked out for like a week or two or something like that with the COVID. And his first game back, he threw 41 baseballs. And maybe he throws 65, maybe he throws 70. I can't imagine he gets much more than 75, even 75, but they're asking basically the full sticker price for 75% of his normal allotment. I can't do it. I have no interest in it. Very good pitcher, but I'll talk back to you when you're fully ready to go. And I haven't seen a note out there, but I just can't imagine he jumps from 40 to 100. I just don't see that. Anybody else have a thought in that, or it's the same sort of idea, like pass on Flaherty, check back in 5 days?
I think you nailed it. I think we don't know unless we saw something that they were going to ramp him up and he's at full strength and they were just being extra cautious in the last one. Then I think we have to assume that it's going to be a limited pitch count in comparison to some of these guys that can go over 100 pitches tonight. So, yeah, it's a tough slate to have Flaherty. I would like him normally, but can't.
Yeah, I mean, Framber Valdez is fine. I just don't like the matchup here against the Angels. Kind of sort of the same old story with the Angels being, a pretty solid contact heavy, except they do have Joe Adell in there who's changing things. He's doing his best to change things. He's another of those prospects that probably should be in AAA, but like he's with the big club. I mean, he's heavily overmatched. It's 40%, 46% K rate so far against lefties. And Justin Upton's another guy kind of the back end of his career striking out a ton as well, 43%. Besides that, these guys, Fletcher and Rendon and Pujols and Simmons never strikes out. Well, 6.1% of the time. I don't want to get all hyperbolic. Any interest in Valdez, Stevie, or any other pitchers that are worth talking about, or we basically covered it?
No interest in Valdez for me. Like if I'm going off of Lizardo, it's probably Mills. Like looking at ownership, Valdez is still someone that's projecting some ownership on this slate. I think Kenta Maeda is super interesting. Cleveland's been really, really rough this season. Like they're one of the worst offenses in baseball to start the year, and Kenta Maeda has pitched really well. So like if you want to maybe come down off of Bauer and you don't want to go all the way down to Lynn, Kenta Maeda's ownership, a third of those guys. So like I have some interest in him.
Steve, are you doing a screen share? Are you showing off the the RG tools here?
I am. I have lineup HQ up. What would you like to see, Dean?
Well, I'm curious if we have. I'm looking at. I want the chat to be able to see it as well too if they're not premium members. So I'm curious if we have ownership and if we have. We probably don't have umpire data, right? Because the umpires are just not giving that stuff until when the new series starts. We don't find out. Yeah, we have nothing as far as umpire data. We find out that right up to game time, essentially. And the next day, of course, because they rotate. But the first game, we have no idea. As far as ownership on DK. Starting pitchers. I'm looking at it right now for the first time. Lynn at 44, Bauer at 40, Lizardo at 35, and then it just falls off the table. And that's about right. Like that's what it should be. Stevie, I mean, and you were talking about Maeda at 11%, which I hear you. I understand why you do it, but I think those Ks are kind of sort of an outlier for the most part. And I can see them pushing back a little bit on his pitch count because he's an old dude, and he was just only out there last time because he was throwing a no-hitter. He actually hit in the dugout. Like, how they sometimes they'll sit by themselves or they'll leave away from the manager. He hit in the dugout. He's like, I don't want anybody to tell me I'm coming out of the game. Just walked. So that's how he made sure he came back out for the ninth inning. And I think he lost it with like 2 outs or something like that.
Bloop single right in the ninth.
Second pitch in the ninth inning.
Sogard.
Of course it's Sogard. He's facing Bauer tonight. He's the guy second. Him and Yelich are the two guys I'm afraid of. Sogard takes those 15 pitch at bats sometimes and pops out or walks. Curtis, got anything else as far as pitchers?
I just wanted to touch on Keller, Brad Keller, that he has a new curveball this year that's been a really strong pitch for him. He's kind of sacrificed some of his Ks. Like his K percentage is much lower and his velocity is down on his fastball. This is a guy he's toyed around with like trying to throw really hard where he's gone like 95 plus at points last season, but he's not doing that now, but he's relying on this new curve that's been really good. And so I don't think teams have figured it out. And so for like, if I'm at 6.7K, I'm kind of interested, especially, now that like the Cardinals have Paul DeYoung back, who's coming back from COVID. Brad Miller is not a bat I'm worried about much, and he certainly strikes out a lot. So I just think that this Cardinals lineup is not the greatest. So if I'm going for down lower, that 6.7K is someone I'm interested in, but it's just tough when you put him next to Lizardo at 7.4. So that's just strictly obviously for like GPPs.
It was is it a curveball or is it a slider?
It's a curve. It may show as like a slider if you're like looking at, depending on what you're looking at, but he's definitely developed a new curve.
Let's agree it's a slurve. How about that? Let's happy median. Or not.
Okay.
Either way. Bader in that lineup too. He's a strikeout candidate as well. There are some Ks in that St. Louis lineup for what it's worth. It's just Keller strikes out 17% of guys. Like that's dating back to last year for what it's worth. And he walks so many people too. So I know we're looking to be different. My way of being different is with the hitters. Talk about hitters as a whole, Kirk Dees, because we got to reference it a couple times with Arizona. And like we ranked our top stacks today, and Arizona's probably the top stack, but it's not like jump off the page. Here's a 6.5 total. You got to have some Arizona. Otherwise, you're going to be so nervous watching that game. You know, they're facing this pitcher for Colorado who probably shouldn't be in the majors, not very good. But it's not – I don't know. I don't like chalk Cole Calhoun and chalk David Peralta and these guys. Like, it's not a great collective of hitters, but, like, that's what makes sense. 5.2 as far as the team total. Not all our team totals jump off the table. Houston as well, too, but they're a little pricier against Sandoval. But there's just not a lot of places to go as far as the sticks. What's your take as far as hitting overall?
Man, so I'm kind of torn. So, I mean, obviously they're the ones that jump out from a projection standpoint because it's pricing and it's also the matchup with Castellani, who a lot of places don't think is major league ready for projections. I know Cardi hates him, his system, but, you know, he does have some pedigree in there, and, you know, he was injured. So, like, for forever coming, you know, so I don't know what everybody's basing all of this on, but I kind of think he may be actually a little bit better than what people think. And I'll throw out like that tough matchup against Houston in Colorado the last time, but still, this is a guy that, you know, you want to pick on, especially on tonight's choices, because there's not a ton of other guys that you want to pick on. So that just makes the most sense, the easiest to do, but it's going to be extremely chalky. And like you said, it's not a ton of hitters that you really can feel extremely confident in. Peralta would be the one guy that I do like from a pricing standpoint. But, you know, then I look to Houston as a spot where I want to play because I think Sandoval is terrible, Patrick Sandoval. And anytime, you know, Houston, they've got some right-handed bats that can really do some damage. But Springer's had that wrist injury. Altuve's been terrible. Correa is the kind of guy that I probably like the best. Kyle Tucker can hit lefties. Sandoval's been really bad against left-handed hitters. So that's kind of my favorite stack would be the Astros. And then I don't know where else I don't know where else to really look, to be honest with you, because there's not anybody else I really want to attack. I think this kid for Detroit is really talented.
Oh, he's a stud.
And has strikeout stuff. But like that, I would take a chance with him blowing up, like maybe having a rough start and the Cubs doing some damage for once, although that, you know, for the first time this season.
You rostered some Cubs this weekend with a win, didn't you?
Oh, man. I mean, anytime you roster Cubs, it's just – you know what you're getting.
Yeah, Mize, I believe, was a #1 draft pick, if I'm not mistaken. I know he went to Auburn because Cheese always touts that because he says War Eagle every single time in his article. Big fan of Cheese, lives in Auburn, if you guys are not aware. We kind of skipped him in the pitchers, but I think he's an interesting pitcher if you want to step down. He's probably not going to throw 100 pitches, like why would he? But he can strike out 7 guys in 5 innings and throw 85 pitches at 6.2K as your SP2 and be perfectly fine. So I think he should be in the conversation there, less so in picking on him, but, you know, he's only going to go so deep, and some of the Cubs are pretty cheap, and we don't know what we're going to get out of a rookie despite no matter how good the pedigree is. Steve, give me your screenshot as far as the hitters in the slate because it's hard. Like Arizona, again, is the obvious, and that's probably what I'm having cash, but I think there's plenty of reason to get away from them in tournaments.
Casey Miz is going to be really good. I don't know if he'll be really good this year, but he's going to be really, really good. He has a ton of talent. Like he's a prospect that we need to watch that we'll be talking about in a couple of years. Like, so I don't think today's the day to play him, but anyway, listen, I love Arizona. Houston's my favorite stack. I think they're the best stack on the slate. Like, I don't know why, like I was shocked that like more people in expert survey today did not have him like Houston ranked #1 and like their team ownership's under 10%. Like I know we're missing a couple bats in this lineup, but like overall, this is the best pitching matchup on the slate. Like, Patrick Sandoval is not good. He doesn't strike anybody out. There's a ton of power in the Houston lineup. Like, I love Houston today. So as much as I like Arizona, This is a good spot. We still don't know what to expect from Castellini. I agree 100% with Kirk Dees on that. Like, we've seen him for three starts, and two of those have been in cores. We don't know what to expect from this kid yet. So, those are the top two stacks for me. I love Cincinnati. I think they're in a great spot. Brett Anderson throws wiffle balls. If you can get the ball up in the air against him, like Davidson gets the ball up in the air, Suarez gets the ball up in the air. Castellanos has been so good against lefties. Irvin's been terrible this season, but he has really good number of career against lefties. So, like, overall, like, those are the three teams that I'm targeting the most. I have some exposure to St. Louis just because I don't think Keller's good. But yeah, like, it's a really tight pull for me today overall for hitters.
Yeah, I mean, Anderson, ground ball guy, 24% fly ball rate, 24.8. I'm kind of shorting him for some reason. Last two seasons, 13.8% homer on the fly ball, 1.03 homers per nine, so haven't given a ton of homers. Like you said, he's not like this pitcher you're afraid of. It's a solid bullpen behind him. Assuming the game's tight, you're probably going to be somebody good, seeing somebody good later in the game. All right, Kirk, you can poke holes in everything, basically, is the point I'm making. I had Houston second for what it's worth. Yeah, I just pulled it up. I was trying to remember where I ranked them. I had them second behind Arizona. And I do think Detroit is kind of interesting. If for no other reason, I don't really know what Mills is, and their guys are cheap, and it gets me the arms. And one of my general rules is arms are more predictive than bats. The absolute worst bat in the slate could be the best bat in the slate at any given night. That rarely happens in baseball. You have much more opportunity as a pitcher to get your fate as opposed to a hitter. Weird things can happen in 3 or 4 or 5 at bats. Pitching, you see 30 batters, and eventually, even if you kind of like get into a 3-0 hole or something like that in the first inning, you kind of figure things out, generally speaking. All right, let's talk about some catchers. Who wants to open this one up? Don't get too excited. Don't raise your hands all at once. Stevie, tell me what catcher you love tonight.
I think it definitely depends on like the team. Like my Cincinnati stacks, I like Kurt Casale. We didn't mention like Minnesota. I think Minnesota is interesting. Aaron Seville has been really good this season, but Minnesota has so much power. So like I don't mind like Alex Avila. Really like catcher for me tonight is just like whoever I'm playing in the stack, I'll probably play the catcher with it. Like just looking at my teams really quick, I have mostly Avila and Casale. Like those are the two guys I'm playing, I guess. I think if you want to pay up for Molinado, I don't think that's a crazy idea if you're stacking Houston and just want, the catcher spot.
Yeah, I would say the same thing for Contreras at 4.8K. Of course, you can't do something like that if you're playing cash games or optimal games. Kirk Dees, catcher, in and out as cheap as possible. What are we doing here?
And so like the raw points play would be Contreras, plus he's batting fifth, right? And so that's a luxury on tonight's slate, except you could go down to Jose Trevino, who's batting fifth for 3,300 against Lizardo. But he's not a great bat. In general, like they've always been worried about his hitting, and they were playing Mathis over this guy for a long time, so that should tell you something. But you have to like his order spot at least. Stephen Vogt is probably going to be pretty popular because at least you got home run upside with him. Caratini is probably the most popular just because he's cheap, 2,800 on DraftKings, and
they pinch hit for him sometimes with Fagley if a lefty comes in, for what it's worth. Just throwing it out there. Like it's happened a couple times. It's just tilted me because I had him as a cheapie once, and I remember these things. I remember all my guys that get pinch hit for. I wanted him to ground out the first as opposed to get pinch hit for. You get a lot of points with those ground outs. You get Valoria for 2K on DK if you just want to flat out punt it. He's not good, and he's facing a good pitcher. But
another guy who will get a pinch hit for potentially.
Yeah, that definitely might happen as well too. But like, I was gonna say, like, what's the highest score for a catcher tonight? I suppose one of them. You get a random home run on one of these guys. Who knows who it's gonna be? I have no clue. I don't know. On your landing site, Yahoo, vote I believe is $7 the minimum, correct?
Yep, he's gonna be the super chalk.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. There you go. Let's get out of catchers. It's awful. Kirk Dees, talk about first baseman.
First baseman, you got Stevie's play, Matt Davidson, who you just go all in on because there's definitely pinch. That's the problem with the Reds, man. There's pinch hit risk everywhere, all up and down this lineup. But, Cheese wrote in the article, Stevie, I'm sure agrees, you just need one home run from this guy, and he's facing a pitcher that gives up a lot of contact, a lot of hard contact, and he's only 3K and he's batting cleanup, so you get the home run upside. So it could be first at bat. Anthony Rizzo, who just cannot hit
What's wrong with him?
I don't know what's wrong with him, but he's the high end guy, 5,200, might catch some ownership. Christian Walker is probably going to be, he's kind of just fits right in there at 3,800 for, he fills out the get the home run upside, fills out the Diamondback stack easily. Will be popular. I mean, this is another tough position, right? There's really not a ton to like. There's, besides Matt Davidson, just from a value perspective, there's really not a ton to like.
All right, Stevie. I know you want to
Gurriel, but he's 5,100 on DraftKings. It's like,
yeah, I like him too, but it's hard to get there. But you can make it happen if you want to. Stevie, I guess you want to talk about Davidson, I suppose. You kind of echo everything you said.
Yeah, I love Davidson. Like, I was reading an article that he spent a lot of last year changing his swing, and he wants to hit more fly balls. So a fly ball hitter against a ground ball pitcher, it's the success that or recipe to success. So I love 3K batting fourth, pinch hit or not. If Cincinnati gets up enough by Milwaukee, I want to happen for my Cincinnati stack, I doubt they'll pinch hit. Maybe they still do. But they'll give him some at bats, maybe even against righties late in the game. So I love Davidson. Outside of Davidson, it's tough. Christian Walker, I think is in play in Arizona stacks. Paul Goldschmidt in St. Louis stacks. Listen, I like looking at pitch batted ball profiles and stuff like that. Goldschmidt hits sliders well. That's why I was super interested to hear Kurt's if it was a slider or a curve that Keller was throwing. So that threw me for a curveball, but I'm going to leave him in there in my St. Louis stack because why not at this point? But Gurriel is expensive. He's a lot cheaper on FanDuel. It's easier to make a Houston stack work on FanDuel than it is on DraftKings. But three of my four teams on DraftKings, I just built a Houston stack. That's what the fourth team is. Have Davidson in there. So I'm not gonna mess with it.
Yeah, I will just add Miggy Cabrera on DK at 2.8K. I know he's not the guy he once was, but he doesn't really have to be at 2.8K. And leverage play du jour. Lynn's going to be super popular. We know historically he's vulnerable to lefty power, and that's exactly what Matt Olson is, and he's highly priced as well, too. I imagine he'll be lost in the shuffle. People are not going to be rostering Matt Olson, especially for a 7-game slate. As a one-off, I don't mind that at all. Of course, if you're stacking Oakland, obviously Olson's in your stack as well, too. Second base. Open it up, Stevie.
If Lance Lynn's going to be 43% owned, should we run an Oakland stack out?
Depending on the lineups you make, you probably should make one. If you're somebody that's 150, of course, I think you make several. But I'm not making that.
He's a 92 to 95 guy. Kurt, how does that rank upon a fastball?
He's got good fast. He's a 95 guy. That's what you need. Plus he hits the top of the zone really well, and so it comes faster. So I expect him to have a good start against Oakland, but I think you can always play an Oakland stack, right? You got guys who can hit bombs. You got a really tough out for him is Olson. That's the one bat to really worry about. Robbie Grossman's actually been pretty good this season. Piscotty's been good this season. You could do both. That's the classic morning grind hedge stack.
Yeah, I don't know. Now I'm interested. I might throw a $5 Oakland stack on FanDuel. But yeah, second base is kind of easy for me. It's Ketel Marte. It's going to be everybody's play. Jose Altuve. Those are the two guys that I'm playing. I got into some trouble on one of my teams and have Kyle Farmer in there just because I'm playing Cincinnati. So it's really it. Jonathan Scope's going to be kind of chalk against Mills, but again, I really like Mills today, so I probably won't play chalky Scope.
Yeah, well, Farmer is 2.3K on DK, so I understand why he landed on one of your lineups within the world of a salary cap. Altuve historically smashes lefties. Of course, we know he is in a season-long funk. I agree with Marte. If you can get there in cash, by all means, is a great play. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of nonsense. I don't know.
going position by position really brings home how rough of a slate this is from like a hitter perspective.
Oh yeah.
Like the answer is, if he's in your stack, for each position.
Mike Freeman's
but
2.3K on DK if you want to flat out punt it, but like I don't like that. Like, I mean, Cesar Hernandez at 4.8. Like, how do you do that outside of stacking Cleveland? You can't do it. I don't know. Yorkies, anything out here at second base?
I just could tell Marte by default.
Yeah, I mean, Kirsten Hero, we're not even getting a discount as far as the matchup, 5.2K. Like, he's a talented player, obviously, but I don't know, man. It's hard to get excited about any of this, but, you know, it's baseball and it's at the highest variance. Third base, hot corner, Kirk Dees. Give me something.
All right, we got some plays here. We got Eugenio Suarez against a left. Wait, no, not he doesn't get the platoon tonight, right?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does.
Oh yeah, he does. Sorry, it was. It's against Anderson, correct? So that obviously we always have liked that one from the home run upside. Plus, he finally is making more contact. Recently, did just homer yesterday, I believe, or the other day. So he's probably the number one guy. I do like the Colorado Rockies side. I'm just not a Merrill Kelly guy. I just think this guy is gonna regress hard at some point. I've been saying this for a long time, so just maybe there's more to him than what I think there is. But man, if the Diamondbacks are chalk, like I wouldn't mind playing the Rocky side of this game. And so Arenado, who's probably not going to get much ownership whatsoever, is somebody I certainly like. They've seen this guy plenty before too as well. I don't know. Jose Ramirez is another high-end guy, but it's Maeda's not the best matchup. But like you do want the guys who can swing the bat from the lefty. So the switch hitters, so Lindor and Ramirez are absolutely in play tonight. You could, and Matt Carpenter's the cheap guy, right? Batting cleanup, 3,600.
Yeah, and I would if you have all the money, I like the Arenado mentioned, but like also Rendon. Like, why not Rendon with we got the Crawford boxes lurking there down the left field line. I know he's 5.5K, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, and you're probably spending money at pitcher, but he's going to go pretty much lost on a 7-game slate. Rendon against anybody can match. Stevie, jump in here as far as third.
You pretty much nailed it, guys. Like Suarez is one of my faves. I love Brad Miller. Brad Miller's going to hit a home run. You can play him at third base or the outfield. Brad Miller is going yard against Keller today. First home run that Keller's allowed this season, no problem. I love the idea of paying it up for Anthony Rendon because you can make a really strong like 3-man stack for the Angels there. So don't hate that. Carpenter cheap, but yeah, Suarez. Like I don't like Anderson today, so like I think that Suarez and Cincinnati is where I'm going to end up a bunch today.
All right, jumping back to shortstop, we got Baez versus Mize, Lindor versus Maeda. I like Lindor, but I don't really want to pick on Maeda. But again, there's only so many options. I'm going to flat out punt this. I'm not going to play Semien against Lynn most likely, unless I'm stacking Oakland. I get so angry. Obviously, the Angels are leading off David Fletcher. You're willingly choosing to have. I want David Fletcher to bat more than Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon. Like, imagine filling out a lineup card like that. Correa, he's pretty good. He's pretty good on FanDuel, where it's 3.1K. But again, it's not really good. Mondesi, season-long guys love themselves some Mondesi. He's 2.8K this year. Obviously, Larry, not a good matchup, and Mondesi's not very good this year. Curtis, we got to roster somebody here. What are we doing?
Carlos Correa. Astros are. I don't think very highly of Sandoval. Correa is, gets that 3 spot. He's 4,700, so he's doable. I think if I have the extra salary, Trevor Story probably projects a little bit better. Probably maybe a tiny bit more upside. So I like him. Baez is the guy that will fit 4,600. That probably be popular, but man, talk about another guy who's just swinging the bat poorly. It's him, and he just got terrible discipline up there at the plate. Plus, the Mize. What's the official pronunciation?
I believe it's Mize.
Mize, yep. Definitely has strikeout stuff and good command. So, Correa is my number one from a pricing standpoint. If money's not a thing, it would be Story or Lindor. I would say DeYoung, but I just don't know what to expect with him coming back from his timing, I'm sure, is going to be off. It's going to be tough to get in the swing of things coming back from COVID like he is. So, man, that's it. That's all I like.
You want to clean up shortstop, Stevie?
I feel like shortstop is a position that everybody in baseball is cold right now. Baez is super cold. We don't know what to like. Correa is cold. DeJong is just coming back. Like on FanDuel, like Correa is the guy. Like he's just so cheap. It's easy. But on DraftKings, like I have a mix. Like I have some Polanco. I have some Tommy Edman batting leadoff against Keller. I have some Trevor Story in there. But yeah, like shortstop's is a position that like we want Mondesi to do something. Like he just he's ice cold, and like we don't expect Flaherty to go deep, so you're gonna get some bullpen at bats, but like he's just been so ice cold this season. Like I don't know, shortstop might be the winning position where like if you get shortstop right tonight, you make money. But I want to play Correa. Like he's the guy I want to play. I like Houston a lot.
4 minutes or so before we step aside and make way for the premium show for Kevin Roth. Knock out all the weather. Any weather lurking out there? Any updates going on weather-wise? Of course, Roth will give you the most up-to-date update. And, of course, the aforementioned Cheese is Good, Dave Potts. He's going to talk about Mize, I'm sure, because, again, War Eagle, very excited about that Auburn pedigree. And he'll answer all your questions as far as the slate. Let's be quick with this one, gentlemen. Stevie, who are your favorite outfielders tonight?
Cole Calhoun, Nick Castellanos, both the Martes. But, yeah, Cole Calhoun, David Peralta, they're just so cheap. They're both under 4K. We've talked about Arizona a ton here. So I like those guys a lot. To be different, I kind of like Philip Irvin. I know he's been terrible this season, but 7-game slate and half the guys we've talked about have been terrible this season. So, I think that Irvin is interesting in like your Cincinnati stacks, batting 6. You don't play Votto. You go 2 through 6 instead of 1 through 5.
He's not one of those potential pinch hit risks, but I hear you. All it takes is one at bet, obviously. Kirk Dees?
Peralta I like a lot. Same thing. I echo the Castellanos. Love him tonight in this spot. I'm torn. Like the pricing will give you guys like Victor Reyes, who's leading off for 2,800. You have to consider that if you need it. I think he's fine.
Or Tavares.
Yep, exactly. Ian Happ, 3,900, at least has that home run upside. That's what you want. Dumpster diving, bottom of the barrel. Talk about a guy who has not hitting well this year is Christian Stewart. But if you want home run upside for 2,300 in salary, I don't mind that either. But it's really going to be a slate of stacks, right? Like you can't tell me you can build like a cash lineup, like a prototypical cash lineup tonight and feel good. It's going to end up being an Arizona stack.
Yeah. So what I like to do is I don't make 150 lineups. I don't have 150 stacks of one team to like compete with everybody else. So I figure if I make 4 stacks of one team, somebody's going to have that covered to some degree. So I just like to hunt for homers. This is a general thought. This is not always the case, but I just like to hunt for power, hunt for homers. And if it happens to be like a 3-3-2 or like a 3-2-2-2, is that right? No. I don't necessarily need – I understand why people stack. I understand the correlation. I get all that. But I also don't – and especially with less games. The less games there are, the less likelihood of one team putting up 12 or 13 runs and that stack winning the night. That said, this is not going to be sneaky, is it, Stevie? If I roll out, 2 double barrel, Lynn with Bauer and this Tiger stack, which is so cheap. Like everybody's doing that to some degree, at least one lineup because it's easy.
Oh, I don't know. Like I had zero interest in the Tigers, so
fair enough.
I don't know, man. Like we like Mills, so like I will stack like the bottom end of the like Cincinnati lineup before I stack the Tigers today.
Give me a couple stacks before we get out of here.
Houston, Arizona, Cincinnati, St. Louis on the low end.
Give me the classic 1-1, 1-1, 1-1, 1-1-1 stack. Thank you, Yasman, in the chat. Hey, feel free to like and subscribe in the chat. We much appreciate that. Chat, hey, listen to us, me and Stevie, on the Morning Grind. There's a little plug for the Morning Grind, which will be out later on this evening or early morning. I'm not really sure when that gets posted exactly. We're recording around midnight or so. Kirk D's, a couple stacks and a guy that's going to homer, and we'll get out of here.
Couple stacks. Obviously I like Houston, but and Arizona, but looking to get away from some of that ownership, it would be the Colorado Rockies. Grayed out pretty high for me tonight, and then the Cubs. If this kid, does struggle. Plus, you get to get into that Detroit bullpen. Plus, the away team, you get the whole full 9-inning at bats. And the thing I just don't like about Cincinnati is just like all the pinch hit risk in that lineup. But it just makes it really tough. But those are the stacks for me.
Crunch time is up next. You got Dave Potts. Cheese is good, along with Kevin Roth. He was Kirk Dees. He was Stevie. I was Dean. This was baseball. We're out of here. Holler!